The day began like any other, with the young man, 22, carrying the weight of small responsibilities and the faint nervous energy that always accompanied visits to the landlady's apartment. She was 40, a 40-year-old American Caucasian woman, her long black hair cascading in soft waves over her shoulders, lightly tanned skin glowing under the sunlight streaming through the windows, and dark brown eyes that were both observant and teasing. Her figure was curvy yet graceful, moving with a confidence that immediately drew attention, and the subtle laugh lines around her eyes suggested warmth and a life fully lived. As he entered the apartment, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with faint hints of vanilla from her perfume, creating a homely yet subtly intimate atmosphere. The sunlight lit up the space, glinting off the countertops and illuminating the delicate curves of her silhouette as she leaned slightly against the kitchen counter. Her presence alone seemed to fill the room, her quiet confidence and natural charm impossible to ignore. The conversation began casually, a brief discussion of the rent, the state of the apartment, and mundane daily matters. But then, with a playful glint in her dark brown eyes, she made the startling offer. No rent tonight, but payment in a different way. He froze mid-step, his heart racing, mind trying to process whether she was joking or serious. His palms felt clammy, and a nervous flutter rose in his chest. She tilted her head, long hair falling gracefully over her shoulder, and allowed a small, confident smile to curl at the edges of her lips. Her voice was soft but deliberate, carrying a subtle teasing undertone. "No rent tonight, but you'll have to pay me differently," she repeated, her tone warm and light yet charged with unspoken tension. The words hung in the air, teasing and provocative, but never overbearing. Every detail became heightened in that moment. The soft rustle of her blouse as she adjusted her posture, the glint of sunlight off her hair, the gentle warmth radiating from her presence, and the faint shimmer in her dark brown eyes as she observed his reaction. He noticed the way her fingers lightly brushed the countertop, the subtle curve of her waist, the way her confident stance made the ordinary apartment feel charged with quiet intimacy. Internally, he wrestled with hesitation and curiosity. Respect for boundaries and social propriety clashed with intrigue and fascination. He couldn't deny the pull of her presence, the warmth in her smile, the softness in her voice, and the subtle teasing that felt like an invitation rather than a command. The emotional goal of this opening chapter is to establish nervous curiosity and tension. The age gap dynamic is clear through their differing levels of confidence and experience. He is tentative, observing, and cautious, while she is poised, self-assured, and teasing in a way that highlights her mature charm. The audience is drawn into a slow-burning romance, sensing both attraction and restraint, aware of the delicate balance between flirtation and propriety. This pivotal moment sets the stage for the story's progression, the initial spark of tension, the playful challenge, and the beginning of an emotionally charged connection that will unfold gradually, drawing the audience into a world of subtle gestures, lingering glances, and YouTube-safe, non-sexual intimacy. After the startling offer, a thick wave of hesitation settled over him. He was 22, standing in the familiar, sunlit apartment, heart thudding, palms slightly damp. His mind raced, caught between intrigue and caution, curiosity and respect. She was 40, a 40-year-old American Caucasian woman, long black hair falling in soft, glossy waves over her shoulders, lightly tanned skin radiant under the bright daylight, and dark brown eyes that shimmered with amusement and subtle depth. Her graceful curves and poised posture conveyed both confidence and approachability, while the faint laugh lines at the corners of her eyes suggested a warmth beneath her composed exterior. The apartment, bathed in natural sunlight, felt alive. Dust motes floated lazily in the beams streaming through the windows, and the faint aroma of coffee mingled with a hint of her perfume, a subtle, inviting fragrance that lingered in the air. The environment was familiar, yet now every corner, every shadow, seemed charged with the quiet tension between them. His eyes darted to small details. The gentle sway of her hair as she moved, the faint sparkle in her dark brown eyes, the soft curve of her lips as she watched him carefully. His hesitation was not just about the unusual offer. It was about the weight of the moment. Respect for boundaries and social norms battled the strange thrill of being near someone so magnetic and self-assured. His thoughts raced. How to respond appropriately, how to acknowledge her teasing without overstepping, how to manage the quickening of his pulse as her gaze lingered longer than expected. Each second stretched, a mixture of excitement, nervousness, and silent fascination. She noticed immediately the subtle way his fingers fidgeted, the brief upward glance, the slight flush on his cheeks. Her smile was soft, teasing, yet kind, offering reassurance while gently highlighting his nervousness. She leaned slightly closer, the warmth of her presence brushing subtly against his arm, her long black hair cascading softly over one shoulder. Every movement was deliberate yet unhurried, a graceful demonstration of confidence that contrasted with his tentative energy. Her voice broke the silence, gentle and playful. "You don't need to be nervous," she said, dark brown eyes softening. Her words, though casual, carried a weight of encouragement, acknowledging the tension but inviting him to relax, to trust the space and the interaction. The way she spoke, the slight tilt of her head, and the warmth radiating from her presence made it impossible to ignore the subtle pull she had over him. Emotionally, this moment establishes the story's initial hesitation and nervous tension, highlighting the contrast between his youthful uncertainty and her mature composure. The audience feels the delicate balance of curiosity and restraint, aware of the age gap dynamic without needing it to be overtly stated. Physical cues, subtle touches, leaning closer, warm glances, begin to layer the scene with emotional intimacy, setting the stage for the slow-burn romance to deepen. By the end of this keynote, the tension is palpable, the emotional stakes quietly rising. He is caught between desire and propriety, awe and caution, while she maintains a gentle, teasing control that draws him closer, emotionally and physically, without breaking boundaries. This hesitation primes the audience for the escalating flirtation and subtle intimacy to come in the next stages. The initial shock of her offer had settled into a simmering tension, one that was playful yet charged with unspoken curiosity. He, 22, felt a nervous energy that made his chest tighten and his palms clammy whenever she was near. She was 40, a 40-year-old American Latina woman, long black hair cascading over her shoulders, lightly tanned skin glowing under the bright sunlight, and dark brown eyes that gleamed with amusement and subtle intent. Her mature beauty was enhanced by faint laugh lines, a graceful posture, and a quiet confidence that made every gesture feel intentional. The apartment, bathed in warm daylight, became a stage for their quiet dance of tension. Sunlight streamed through the windows, catching the shine in her hair and highlighting the gentle curves of her figure. The space was familiar, safe, yet now it felt charged. Each casual glance, each movement, carried a layer of meaning he couldn't ignore. The aroma of coffee and the soft hum of city life outside added a comforting yet intimate atmosphere, amplifying the contrast between ordinary domesticity and the electric personal tension. Her teasing began subtly. A question about the rent would be accompanied by a soft, almost imperceptible smile, as if daring him to react honestly. She noted every sign of nervousness, a blush, a fumbled word, a fleeting glance, and used them to heighten the playful energy. "Still nervous?" she asked lightly, dark brown eyes sparkling, as if she could see straight through the layers of his hesitation. Her tone was teasing, warm, and confident, inviting engagement while maintaining control of the moment. Physicality became a tool for subtle intimacy. Her hand might brush his arm as she reached for a book, linger slightly when she adjusted something nearby, or rest lightly on the counter near him. Each touch was fleeting yet meaningful, sending a warmth through him that was impossible to ignore. The slight sway of her body, the tilt of her head, and the soft cadence of her laughter created a rhythm that pulled him in while simultaneously testing his composure. Internally, he wrestled with a mixture of awe, attraction, and hesitation. Her age and experience added depth to the attraction. She carried herself with poise and grace, every movement deliberate, yet approachable. The subtle teasing wasn't just about provocation. It was a way for her to gauge his confidence, to draw him out, and to establish a connection that was both emotionally and physically resonant without crossing boundaries. Emotionally, this phase builds heightened tension and curiosity. The audience experiences the thrill of slow-burn attraction, the nervous flutters, the blushes, the fleeting touches, and the playful teasing. The age difference is emphasized not through words, but through the contrast between his tentative, youthful reactions and her confident, composed demeanor. By the end of this stage, the dynamic is unmistakable. He is captivated, both by her beauty and the intelligent playfulness of her interactions, while she maintains a teasing control that draws him deeper into their unspoken connection. The scene sets the stage for deeper emotional intimacy, subtle physical closeness, and the eventual progression of their YouTube-safe, slow-burning romance. The teasing and nervous tension had evolved into a quieter, more intimate rhythm. He, 22, stood in the sunlit apartment, feeling the mix of excitement and apprehension that had become almost constant whenever she was near. She was 40, a 40-year-old American Latina woman, her long black hair catching the bright daylight, lightly tanned skin glowing warmly, and dark brown eyes radiating both curiosity and gentle amusement. Her curvy, graceful figure and confident presence created an aura that was simultaneously inviting and slightly intimidating. Subtle laugh lines around her eyes spoke of her life experience, giving her an approachable warmth beneath the composed exterior. This chapter centered on a private moment of connection, one of those rare pauses where the playful tension softened into something emotionally resonant. Perhaps the apartment door closed behind them, or a shared task brought them physically closer. Reaching for a book together, handling coffee mugs, or adjusting a window. The environment, bathed in bright, natural sunlight, felt cozy and intimate, highlighting the gentle warmth of her presence and the faint fragrance of her perfume. Each small gesture carried weight. The tilt of her head, the light brush of her hair across her shoulder, or the subtle shift of her body toward him. Their conversation shifted from playful banter to a quieter, more sincere exchange. He noticed how her gaze lingered, how her dark brown eyes softened when she listened, and the slight curve of her lips that hinted at amusement yet also understanding. Her voice, gentle and deliberate, invited openness without pressure, encouraging him to share without fearing judgment. In response, he found himself speaking more freely, admitting nervous excitement, curiosity, and the subtle thrill of being near her. Every word and pause deepened the emotional intimacy between them. Physical cues reinforced this connection. Her hand might rest lightly on the edge of the counter near his, or her fingers brush against his arm, accidentally. Each touch brief but meaningful. Their proximity carried warmth, the kind that made his pulse quicken while keeping the interaction safe and respectful. She leaned in slightly to show something or simply to speak more privately, and he became acutely aware of the magnetic pull of her presence, a warmth that was comforting yet thrilling. Internally, he was caught in a swirl of emotions: admiration, nervousness, awe, and a growing affection that transcended the playful teasing of earlier moments. Her age and experience added layers to his fascination. She moved with a confident grace, spoke with measured intent, and allowed space for him to navigate his feelings without rushing or overwhelming him. The subtle intimacy, the quiet acknowledgement of shared tension, and the gentle gestures created a sense of trust and anticipation. The emotional goal: to strengthen the bond and deepen connection. By slowing the pace, emphasizing proximity, physical cues, and shared vulnerability, this keynote allows the audience to feel the progression from nervous curiosity to meaningful engagement. It sets the stage for shared vulnerability and subtle invitations in later keynotes, maintaining the slow burn, YouTube-safe romance while highlighting emotional depth and mutual respect. By the end of this moment, the tension had shifted. Playful teasing gave way to sincere connection, leaving both him and the audience aware that something deeper was blossoming, grounded in trust, curiosity, and mutual intrigue. The apartment, bathed in warm daylight, now felt less like a transactional space and more like a quiet sanctuary where emotions could safely surface. He, 22, stood near the kitchen counter, heart still racing from the earlier teasing and lingering tension. She was 40, a 40-year-old American Caucasian woman, long black hair cascading over her shoulders, lightly tanned skin that glowed under the bright sun, and dark brown eyes that held both amusement and an unexpected softness. Her curvy, graceful figure and poised presence projected confidence, yet the faint laugh lines around her eyes suggested a life that had known challenges, joys, and quiet reflection. This chapter focuses on shared vulnerability, the point where playful teasing evolves into genuine emotional intimacy. She began to speak more openly, sharing a personal anecdote from her life, perhaps a moment of challenge as a landlady, or a memory that revealed her softer, human side. Her voice, warm and deliberate, carried no judgment, only an invitation to listen and connect. The way she leaned slightly closer, brushing her hair over one shoulder and letting a faint smile linger, created a safe, intimate space. He listened intently, captivated not only by her beauty but by the depth of her words and the honesty in her tone. The sunlight highlighted the subtle shimmer of her hair and the curve of her lips as she spoke. Every glance, every inflection of her voice, made him feel included in a private, almost sacred moment. His nervousness began to soften, replaced by a quiet admiration for her maturity, intelligence, and warmth. Encouraged by her openness, he began to respond, sharing his own thoughts and feelings in a way he hadn't before. The room seemed to shrink around them, creating a cocoon where words, gestures, and glances held amplified meaning. She noticed his sincerity, her dark brown eyes softening further, and allowed herself to enjoy the growing emotional connection. A hand might lightly brush his arm accidentally, or she might rest her palm on the counter near his, subtle touches that carried warmth and significance without breaking YouTube-safe boundaries. The bright, natural light streaming through the windows accentuated the tenderness of the moment. Her lightly tanned skin glowed, her curves moved gracefully as she shifted slightly, and her subtle expressions, the soft lift of her brow, the curve of her smile, the warmth in her eyes, spoke volumes. He became acutely aware of every detail, every nuance, sensing the trust and understanding building between them. Emotionally, this keynote is about deepening trust and creating emotional resonance. The audience experiences the thrill of shared vulnerability, the mix of nervous excitement, mutual respect, and quiet longing. The age gap dynamic is emphasized through her composed confidence and his youthful hesitancy, highlighting how maturity can provide both comfort and intrigue. By the end of this stage, the flirtation has evolved into genuine emotional intimacy. They have moved beyond playful teasing to meaningful connection, establishing a foundation of trust, understanding, and subtle affection. The scene prepares the audience for the next chapter, where silent invitations and deepening attraction will further the slow burn, YouTube-safe romance while keeping the interaction emotionally rich and compelling. The playful teasing and shared vulnerability had built a tension that lingered in the air, electric yet unspoken. He, 22, felt it in every quickened heartbeat, in the slight tremor of his hands as he adjusted his posture. She was 40, a 40-year-old American Latina woman, long black hair flowing smoothly over her shoulders, lightly tanned skin glowing warmly under the bright sunlight streaming into the apartment, and dark brown eyes that seemed to see right through his hesitations. Her curvy, graceful figure exuded a poised confidence, yet there was a softness in her expression that suggested genuine care and curiosity. In this moment, the story shifts from verbal interaction to silent communication and unspoken invitation. Words become minimal. Instead, subtle gestures, fleeting touches, and prolonged glances carry the weight of emotional and romantic tension. She leans slightly closer to show him something on the counter, the warmth of her body brushing just enough to make his chest tighten. Her long black hair falls forward, occasionally brushing against his shoulder, a light and intimate touch that sends shivers down his spine. Her dark brown eyes lock with his, holding a mixture of amusement, challenge, and gentle invitation. The sunlight enhances every detail, the shimmer of her hair, the glow of her lightly tanned skin, the curve of her smile, and the sparkle in her eyes as she watches him react. The room feels alive with anticipation, a bright, safe environment where boundaries are respected but attraction is palpable. Every slight movement, the tilt of her head, the brush of her hand, the soft shift of her weight toward him, speaks volumes without a single word. He becomes acutely aware of every sensation. The subtle warmth radiating from her presence, the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the sunlit air, the electric charge when their hands almost touch. His internal conflict reaches a peak. Desire, nervousness, and admiration interweave as he struggles to interpret her intentions while remaining respectful. He notices the grace and control with which she navigates their closeness, her mature confidence evident in every deliberate gesture. The emotional goal in this keynote is to pique tension through subtle, nonverbal cues. The audience feels the magnetic pull between the characters, the almost touch, the lingering glance, the soft brush of hair, creating a slow-burn thrill. Her age and experience are conveyed through her controlled confidence and quiet dominance of the moment, while his youth and tentative curiosity heighten the sense of vulnerability and excitement. Every action is layered with intention yet remains safe for YouTube. A hand near his, a whisper meant only for him, a fleeting smile that lingers longer than expected. The intimacy is emotional and sensory, relying on touch, proximity, and gaze rather than words. By the end of this chapter, the silent invitation has been established. The audience is fully invested in the slow burn dynamic, sensing both the anticipation and the emotional depth of their connection. He is captivated, drawn irresistibly toward her warmth and confidence. Yet the careful restraint ensures that the romance remains tender, respectful, and emotionally satisfying. This sets the stage for the story's warm, YouTube-safe resolution in the final keynote. The tension that had built over time, playful teasing, subtle touches, shared vulnerability, and silent invitations, now softened into a tender, emotionally satisfying resolution. He, 22, felt a quiet exhilaration mixed with relief. The nervousness that had defined his interactions with her melted into a warm, steady awareness of her presence. She was 40, a 40-year-old American Caucasian woman, long black hair cascading smoothly over her shoulders, lightly tanned skin radiant under the bright daylight, and dark brown eyes that glimmered with a mixture of amusement, affection, and quiet pride. Her curvy, graceful figure and poised demeanor exuded confidence. Yet the softness in her expressions conveyed genuine care and vulnerability. The apartment was filled with sunlight, bright and inviting, highlighting every detail of the space and of her presence. Dust motes floated lazily in the air, and the gentle aroma of coffee lingered, mingling with the subtle scent of her perfume. Every glance, every movement, felt significant. The playful teasing had given way to tender, meaningful touches, a hand resting lightly on his arm, fingers brushing accidentally yet deliberately, a fleeting brush of hair over his shoulder, and lingering glances that spoke volumes without uttering a word. The emotional intimacy between them reached a peak as they shared quiet conversation, the kind that flowed easily now. He found himself speaking freely, without hesitation, while she listened with patient attentiveness, her dark brown eyes reflecting warmth and understanding. The subtle rhythm of their interaction, the pauses, the soft smiles, the gentle nods, created a safe space where mutual respect and attraction could coexist. Each small gesture was charged with meaning, reinforcing the bond that had been built through their previous encounters. Physical proximity played a key role in the resolution. She might lean in to show him something on a counter or hand him an object, the warmth of her body brushing subtly against his. He became aware of the comfort and reassurance in her presence, the gentle steadiness of her heartbeat when they sat close, and the quiet energy that seemed to flow between them. Every action, no matter how small, conveyed care, interest, and subtle affection. This stage emphasizes emotional fulfillment and mutual respect. The age gap dynamic, present throughout their interactions, now feels natural and harmonious. Her confidence and experience blend seamlessly with his youthful curiosity and sincerity, creating a connection that is balanced, tender, and emotionally resonant. There is no rush, no pressure. Only the quiet joy of being seen, understood, and appreciated. By the end of this chapter, the story reaches a satisfying conclusion. The playful teasing, nervous hesitation, and silent invitations have culminated in a moment of warm emotional intimacy. The audience experiences the full arc of a slow-burn, age-gap romance. Tension, curiosity, vulnerability, subtle physical closeness, and finally, mutual understanding and connection. The resolution leaves both characters content yet aware that their bond is only beginning to deepen. He is captivated by her grace, warmth, and gentle guidance, while she delights in his sincerity, openness, and youthful energy. The story closes with a sense of fulfillment, demonstrating that romance can flourish through trust, respect, and tender, YouTube-safe interactions, leaving the audience emotionally satisfied and engaged.